Hi, comrade. Welcome to our podcast series. These episodes feature the best of Lab-Left, an international forum organized by Szikra Movement in collaboration with Rosa Luxemburg Foundation. We gathered in Budapest in November 2024 in order to discuss how to win from the left. Thanks for tuning in. This conversation with Dominika Lasota and Nadia Prasakevitz, the co-founders and members of Wscho, a Polish grassroots environmentalist and feminist organization, was done by Margit Barna and Rita Bonifert.
Hello everyone. So we are sitting here with the Wscho, a youth-led movement from Poland, and two activists from this movement, Domi and Nadia. This is a youth-led movement that mobilizes for social justice. And could you please tell us a bit more about yourself and this organization and your main fields of action?
Hi everyone, my name is Domi, and I'm one of the people who have been with Wscho from the very beginning, from its first days, and basically the backstory is that we were just a group of climate activists, friends. We were mostly, belonging to Fridays for Future, so the youth climate movement. And for many years, we were organizing for climate justice in Poland. But then when in 2022 in February, when the Russian invasion broke out in Ukraine, we felt that it was slightly absurd to be fighting for like a livable future if like right now in the very moment bombs were falling on the houses of our Ukrainian friends. And so we figured out that as climate activists, since we knew so much about the rotten politics and the fossil fuel deals and how it all just destroys our lives and our safety, we tried to find a connection between the climate and the war in Ukraine, and we found it. And that was, the fossil fuel deals that Putin was basically using to finance the invasion, because fossil fuels are basically the main source of money for Russia. And obviously fossil fuel deals and our dependence on it, leads us to the climate catastrophe. And so we found the link and started campaigning for the full embargo on Russian fossil fuels. And, after months of doing this work, of organizing protest actions and confrontations of politicians, there started to, assemble a community of people who, were also seeing this new wave of activism that links different crises together. And that's how Wschód came to life. And Wschód in Polish means both the sunrise and the east. And so we like to think of ourselves as the sunrise from Eastern Europe, as, the new wave of political action, the new wave of activism that can shake up this region for good. Yeah, so that's the backstory, Nadia. And
Yeah, and I think it's really important in our actions now that we really focus on all these crises, and we don't think of them as this like separate things, but that they are all connected. And if they have the same cause, then maybe there is a common solution to all of them. So basically, what we are trying to do is find this common solution.
Thank you. So maybe for those that don't know anything about your organization, like how would you explain a bit more about not just the origins, but like the main fields of actions, that what you do?
Yeah, well, I feel like the last year was really for us about like setting a clear direction, because a year ago there were elections in Poland, parliament elections, and we actually pushed back the right-wing government from the parliament. Like, they're no longer the government, right? So, but we weren't prepared for this new government to be like probably as shitty as the old one. So what we are trying to do right now is find a way to really change the narrative. So it's not only about changing the aesthetics that like, well, before we were all sad and now there's this new government and we are all smiling, but to make it about real changes. So we're just trying to draw this picture of our future.
And I would add to that, if I were to describe Wscho to a complete stranger, I would say that we are an initiative that gathers like courageous people that want to transform our country so that everybody finally has access to safe and decent living. That would, for me, that's what Wscho is about. And we face different crises as a society, and so as a movement we try to mobilize people to fight for the solutions to these crises. And if that means confronting some boomer politician, we're gonna do that. If that means organizing a demonstration to call for, I don't know, like the taxing the rich, we're gonna do that. If that means just going from town to town to organize gatherings for women to talk about how we are neglected by politics, we're gonna do that. So we are a very, I would say, like, diverse movement, a very vibrant, innovative one. And yeah, we're just trying to win the Poland that we think we deserve.
Yeah, because like one more thing I think is important is that we are not afraid of facing people in power, because we know that actually we are the ones with power, because they wouldn't be the government right now if we didn't vote for them. So they got the votes, so now they have to deliver.
And what brought you, like on a personal level, to political activism? Did you have any inspiration that was significant in this journey?
Well, for me, I really think, like, when the former government gained power, I was like 10 years old. So I don't really have like so much conscious memories from the time before. And when I was like becoming a teenager, I was really interested in how everything works. And I feel like the first topic for me was like, I was a good student, but also I saw that the education system is not really great. So I would discuss it in school, actually, with my teachers. And for me, in the beginning, I'm from a small town, so there wasn't so many opportunities to organize in a community. So I was just doing these presentations for my class about like queer history, and like I actually done a whole like sex ed lesson for my biology, because I wanted to do this presentation about oh my god, co chcesz powiedzieć? Zapomniałam. Ta choroba taka, Jezu, HIV? Nie, co? Że z tymi, co się te, co są w środku macicy tkanki, że się endometrioza. Oh, yeah. I wanted to do a presentation about endometriosis, and she was like, yeah, well, you can do that, but then like talk about the contraception and the other diseases and the like whole female like body, so it was really... So I was doing these things, and then there was the 2020 year, and the ban on abortion happened, that like even stricter than it was before. So it was time when I went to my first protests. And I really feel that it was a defining moment for me. And yeah, and because of this like organizing about 2020, I came to some groups on Facebook, and a few years later, I saw this like post about Wscho there. So it wasn't really active group anymore, but because of it, I was able to connect with Wscho.
I didn't know that story before, but that's amazing. For me, it wasn't women's rights that brought me into activism. It was the climate. And I was, lucky to be a teenager in the time of this incredible, massive mobilization of young people for climate. Greta, Fridays for Future, and all that story. But when that was happening, I was a big nerd. And I've been very shy and very nerdy my whole life. So when I was in high school and that was happening, I was like, this is incredible. This is so inspirational. But like, that is definitely not for introverts like me. So I'm just going to read my books, learn as much as I can, and then maybe find a way to be, useful and helpful to that movement in the future. But then when I finished high school, the pandemic broke out, and I felt like, that was the time where the Polish government was just, they were very lost with the pandemic, and they were very much, putting all other policies, including the climate action, to the side even more than they did before. And so I realized that, okay, I'm done with high school. Maybe now I should just put aside my nerdy side for a minute and then just, try this activism out. And so I texted a local group in my hometown in the north of Poland, whether they have any opportunities for me to get involved. And they said, just come to this town square for a protest. And so I was so hyped up for it, but also very stressed because that was the first thing. And what I did was I prepared this gigantic poster with 10 reasons why climate is being destroyed and what can we do. I channeled my nerdy side very well into it, and I got to this protest and there was 5 people. So I was like, oh my god, okay, well, that's interesting. And looking back, it was so awkward and so small and so cringy, but for some reason, for me, that was the first moment where I felt so empowered and so I don't know, I felt like this new world is opening up to me, this new world of, speaking about what I dream of, what I need, what frustrates me. And I just, from that little action, I just, I got, completely just swallowed by the movement. And I would do another action, another protest, and I would try to meet everyone in the movement because I was so excited, and I stayed ever since. And I was organizing with a youth climate strike for a few years until the war in Ukraine, where the switch to something more happened.
Okay, and then let's get to the point when you talk about your political work and political activism in the current Polish political environment. What do you do so successfully?
Mm-hmm. Oh my God! Well, we deal with many things. I think one of the campaigns that I am the proudest of is our work around last year's election. Because for those who don't know the context, in Poland we've had a very, very bad anti-democratic right-wing government for 8 years, and they were attacking all sorts of communities, from women, queer people, migrants, just anything you can think of. And they really felt unremovable. It felt like it's impossible to just end this nightmare that they were bringing into our politics. But with us, since Wschód came to life in the face of such a horror as the Russian invasion, we felt like, okay, if we were able to meet the moment of the invasion, how about we rise up to the occasion of these elections? And for these few months, we're gonna do everything we possibly can to just try to get them out of power. And so we did that, and we focused especially on women, on young people, because we knew that these were the drivers of those huge women's strikes just a few years before, and that these were our people, that these were the people that were as, angry, as hopeless, as, terrified as we were. And so we decided that, let's just give it a go and let's try to somehow, mobilize all of us to get the bastards out. And we did all sorts of crazy things. Like we organized a big dance party outside of the parliament, a silent disco. We would visit the parliament and like confront politicians at the corridors. We would, just show up to the rallies of the opposition candidates, of the governmental candidates, and we would basically, try many ways to, to shake up politics. And yeah, it was it was incredible. And yeah, Nadia, how would you say this period was for us?
Yeah, well, I think what we were trying to do with this campaign was just make it about us, make it about young people, about women, make the politicians who didn't really want to give us any solutions, make them give us the solutions, and sometimes just make them seem stupid because they don't expect young people, young women to ask them so tough questions, So we would just be everywhere. Like, we have people all over the country, so whenever there would be like a meeting of like the opposition or like the people from the government, we would be there, we would ask the tough questions. Sometimes there were like really ridiculous situations with like when our friend from the movement tried to confront the previous prime minister. There wasn't any space to ask questions, but there was a time to make selfies. So he just went to he pretended that he's going to have a selfie with the prime minister, but he just turned off the recording and asked the question and lasted like 10 seconds. But like no answer is also an answer. So we just make a big noise about this. So yeah, I think it was just about making it about us, basically.
Yeah, and in the final stages of this election campaign, we decided to just, go big and crazy, and we organized this final, action under the slogan, "We've been silent already." And we collaborated with one of a video artist in Poland, with whom we did this video election spots, featuring different crises that many marginalized communities face in Poland. And in the background of that video, you can hear like the insane, assaulting quotes that Polish politicians, especially the right wingers, would just throw out there into the public discourse. And the special thing about this video is that, towards the end, women first put a finger on their mouth as in the symbol of, them being silenced, but then that finger on their mouth, changes into their middle finger that they show towards the government. And that absolutely destroyed the system. Like, it went super viral, and we would go, with a bunch of our activists, we would go from a city to town to hold these gatherings of anyone really who wanted to just come, and it just moved so many people, and it brought them together, and we were able to create that community, which then later on the election day went to these polls, and in this hopeful or enraged vibe, just voted them out and opened the doors for change to happen in our country. Obviously, a year later, we are in a situation where the new guys, the better ones, turned out to be, as slow or as ignorant of the need for change in our country as the previous government. But I feel like what we were able to do in this time is really get clear on what exact transformation we want to see happen in Poland. What do we really want to achieve, like on climate, on women's rights, on economy, finally taxing the rich, like on energy, on our industry, on our workers' rights, on our housing situation. Like, we just assembled all of this into this like visionary charter called Plan for Generations. And from the beginning of next year of 2025, where we will also have presidential elections, we want to finally, be back in full force out there in Poland. And we want to, make that year the year where the big transformation finally kicks off in Poland. So that's the plan, I guess.
Great, that's nice to hear, and it's really inspiring, like everything what you just said. When it comes to political activism, where do you see the differences between Eastern and Western Europe? Yeah, it's the best topic.
Where should we start?
Well, I think you should think you have more experience.
Oh my God. Well, it's hard to pick the difference, because there is many. I think in the years of our work, we realized that doing activism in Eastern Europe is a whole different thing compared to Western Europe. And, very often we would get, all sorts of advice from organizers, from experts, from, abroad. And very often they just really wouldn't grasp the challenges that we have in here. And for example, in Western Europe, where people already have, many people, not all of them, but many people already have access to like decent living. They can talk about climate and freedom and democracy and all of these like abstract things often. And in Poland, people are focused on the daily struggles that they face. They are scared about the end of the day or the end of the month more than they are scared of the end of the world, And that is something that we, first of all, need to accept and understand. Why, like, where do these people come from? Like, why are they feeling this way? And then how our movement should meet these people where they are at. Like, if we are to win climate justice or social justice, like, we need to show our people like what opportunities it presents to them. And that was for me the big learning, that like we obviously, we hear all of those stories of successful movements from the US, from the UK, where they won Green New Deal and da-da-da. Obviously, like, we're at a different stage in Poland, but I feel like our region can not only, figure out new ways of doing activism, and not only can it deliver like the right support and that justice and that decency to our people, but I also feel like our region can actually teach so much to especially to Western Europe, like focusing on economic rights and that decency, focusing on basic security, but also showing like resilience. Like, we are a region that has such massive post-Soviet history, and so many post-Soviet like challenges, but those challenges also taught us a very special approach to life and to activism. We as Poland, we have a massive history of being colonized. We have a massive history of just being indoctrinated and so on. But also we have a massive histories of uprisings, of revolutions, of workers like rising up and just like abolishing the most brutal systems out there. And I think I feel like I was at the beginning very much like obsessed with everything else beyond my nation, and right now I know like that the best answers actually lay within us, and that's what I think the biggest difference is.
Yeah, because what I think is like important is that people from all Eastern Europe, but like from Poland, they see the climate change happening around them, but oftentimes they just can't name it, and there are all these politicians who point them in the wrong directions, and they say, well, the problem are migrants, or the problem are like queer people, or the problem is so and so. And I think, well, what we are trying to do is show that the climate policies is not about taking away from them, but it's about building a better world, about like just deconstructing the rotten power systems and building it all up.
Mm-hmm. And I would ask to what you're saying, Nadia, is that like for like it's a thing in Poland that many of our like family members and like many of our ancestors and we as well, I feel like we've been forced into this mentality of like thinking that we are the backward region, you know, like we are the ones behind the whole developed world, that we are the margin. But actually, like, I feel like what we are trying to do with Wscho is to actually like, okay, if you tell us that we are the margin and if you tell us that we are behind because we have such a difficult history, well, let me show you our power and let me show you how we, the margin, can actually be the source of an insane transformation, not only for Poland, but for Europe and beyond. And I think that sense of reclaiming your power against all odds and in the face of the most, you know, horrific regimes, horrific tragedies and atrocities, like that's what we're trying to do.
And I think like our name, like, yeah, so it's like sunrise, but it's also east, because we're not necessarily try to mimic what is happening on the west. We know that our context is different, so the solutions are also gonna be different. Yeah.
Thank you very much. If you are feeling finished, then thank you very much for your inspiring input, and we wish you a very successful campaign in Poland for Wscho movement, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, and I mean also like good luck to our Hungarian friends. We cannot wait for all of that, you know, change to also happen here. And we are 1000% convinced that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time, right?
Yeah. So thank you for the invitation, and we can't wait to see what you guys are gonna do.
Exactly.
It's gonna be
amazing.
great.
Wonderful. And we're gonna learn from you. Yeah, so much.
We already did from you, so thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in. To find every other episode, follow our feed. This episode was produced by pillanatait. Thanks to everyone who made it possible.
Zengok harang, veled együtt zeng a szívem, őt látom, jön már felém. Musikál a világ, velem örül a nyár, tudom én, jön a fényboros napok után. Hozd vissza őt, végtelen nagy szerelem.